So, if you are traveling to Cancun in 2023, here are some updated travel tips that you should know before going. We've traveled to Cancun over 15 times in the past 5 years, and we have done previous Cancun travel tip videos, but within those 5 years, some things have definitely changed. So, I wanted to do an update for this year, and I will also repeat some of the most important travel tips that you need to know before going to Cancun. So, number one are the beaches. We've seen some major changes in the beaches over the past 5 years because of the recurring issue with the seagrass and the sargassum. So, if the beach experience is the priority for you, like it is me, when you go on vacation, you definitely want to do your research before picking your resort. Now, with some resorts, it's just a seasonal issue. So, the best time really to travel to Cancun for not only the beaches, but also the weather, I would say is January through March. But sometimes, even during those months, there's still an issue with sargassum and you can't even go into the water. So, one example is the Grand at Moon Palace. Even in the Playa de Carmen area lately, it has really become an issue. However, 5 years ago, when we first started coming to the Cancun area, the Playa de Carmen beaches were among the best we had ever been to. So you can see how things can really change from year to year. And a traveler that's not doing their research that had been to a place previously might be in complete shock in 2023 when they go to find out that it's just covered in seagrass and sargassum. So, my tips on this would be number one is to choose the ideal time of year, which I mentioned already is January through March. And if you're going outside of that, then make sure you do your research. The summer months tend to really affect the entire coastline, but it does really depend on the resort that you're going to, because some resorts sit in pockets that don't get as much seagrass and sargassum as others. Also, the hotel zone is one of my favorite beach experiences. And although during the summer we've been there and they did have a lot of seagrass, we were still able to get into the water. And it is Mother Nature, so there is no foolproof method, to avoid Mother Nature from doing what it needs to do. However, it has had some patterns over the last few years, and with just a little bit of research, you might be able to avoid having a disappointing beach experience that you've been waiting for all year long. There's also a great Facebook group that I follow that I will link below as well, and it educates you on the issue, but also updates you with actual maps of the entire Cancun area and shows you which areas have the highest level of sargassum, also the times of year. Another tip is something that I do before going to a resort in Cancun is I will go to TripAdvisor and in the review section there's actually a search bar that you could type in beach and I will read through all the different travelers comments, look at the pictures, look at the time of year and see if there are times when the beaches are better than others at a specific resort. Number 2 is the construction that has been going on the past several years around the airport and along the main roads. So while in the long term, yes, this is supposed to improve and make it easier and faster to get to your destinations in Cancun, right now it's causing a lot of delays. So it might take you a lot longer to get to the resort or back to the airport, depending on where you're staying. And some drivers are even asking travelers to be picked up 2 hours more in advance. So, for instance, if you were going to be picked up at noon, maybe because the airport's an hour away and you had a 3 o'clock flight, now they want to pick you up at 10 a.m. So it's going to add in a lot of travel time to your vacation. I would say this is mostly affecting the Playa de Carmen and Tulum area. So, for instance, this last time we were in the hotel zone and we didn't even want to venture up to Playa de Carmen because we knew that the traffic with all the construction was going to be so bad. So, my tip on this time around, if you are traveling and you haven't picked your resort yet, is to pick a resort maybe in the hotel zone or something closer to the airport so you are not delayed by all of the construction that's going on right now. Or if you are staying in the Playa de Carmen or Tulum area or somewhere further from the Cancun airport, then if you're able to maybe add in another day to your vacation to allow for that extra travel time. Now, supposedly the construction is going to be over this year in November, so November 2023, but we all know how that goes. So I would just factor this construction into your planning. I would say probably at least until mid next year. And number 3 is that there are no more paper immigration forms that you have to fill out when you're on the plane or when you arrive to present with your passports at immigrations. In fact, I just uploaded a new video about updates to the Cancun airport for 2023. So make sure you check that out because I don't want to repeat everything here. But they did just get e gates in some terminals, and they're trying to do as much electronically as possible so they can get those lines moving, get you in and out of the airport so that you can get on vacation as quickly as possible. But the one tip I am going to reiterate about the Cancun airport is to set up your transportation ahead of time. I cannot stress this enough. If you follow me, you know I repeat this multiple times because we got scammed the first time that we came to Cancun by a taxi service, which is why we always use Nacho Tours now. And I will put his information in the description below if you want to use him. But my suggestion is that you just do your research. You know that you're using a reliable service and that you have it set up ahead of time. Again, there's more info in that Cancun airport video, so make sure you check that out. Number 5 is the smoking ban that Mexico just passed, which prohibits smoking in any public area. So that means beaches, hotels, restaurants, bars, shops, you name it. So this could be huge for some travelers, especially obviously the smokers, but other travelers sometimes that just want to smoke cigars, on the beach or after dinner. So I did another video on this briefly, and I did have some comments where people were saying that resorts were still allowing smoking in designated areas. So the tip would be to call the resort ahead of time, do some research on TripAdvisor, see if you could find out if the resort is allowing it. I have no idea how they're going to be able to enforce such a ban in a tourist area like Cancun, but it was passed in January 2023, and they said that huge fines would be given out to people that were smoking in public areas. And the next tip is not something new, but it's something that I'm just kind of realizing from doing this channel. And that is a lot of people don't know that Cancun is just a tiny little city inside the larger state of Quintana Roo. But people refer to all the other cities around it as Cancun. So the tip is know the city that you are going to in the Cancun area because it might not be anywhere near Cancun. For instance, Tulum and Playa del Carmen can be several hours from the Cancun area. And the reverse of that is if you are going to return to Cancun, don't get stuck just going to the same place year after year because there's so many beautiful places in the area to visit. For instance, there's Isla Mujeres, the beautiful island north of Cancun. There's Costa Mujeres, Playa Mujeres. If you go south, there's Akumal, Puerto Morelos, there's Tulum, Playa del Carmen. Of course, there's Cozumel, and then there's a new and upcoming island north, which is Holbox. So there are really so many beautiful areas that you really want to discover if you're going to return to Cancun. Stick with me, almost done. These next tips you definitely don't want to miss. So, another question that I'm getting is regarding COVID testing and masks. So, you no longer need a COVID test to enter Mexico or return back to the USA. So, that has been gone for quite some time. Now, if you're traveling between other countries, I'm not sure, you'll have to check with that, but I'm pretty sure almost all around they are doing away with that. Masks are not required at any of the resorts I've been to. Some people were wearing them, some of the employees were still wearing them, but they are not required. And also at the airport, there were no masks required this time as well. Now, the next tip is whether or not you should rent a car when you are vacationing in Cancun. Now, the first reminder is that I represent that mom, play it on the safe side traveler. So I don't live in Mexico. I wouldn't be someone who would move to Mexico. And while I love adventure, I don't consider myself that adventurous. I'm more cautious and a conservative traveler. So when I give tips, that is the perspective that I'm coming from. So I personally would not rent a car during my vacation in Cancun. I do not think it is the safest way to travel and enjoy your vacation. Now, I give more detail about this in my Cancun airport tips video, so I don't want to repeat myself, but I do want to respond to some of the comments who said I was giving wrong travel advice by saying not to rent a car, that it's very safe, that they do it all the time, people do it all the time, and that I should not scare people out of renting a car. So again, this is just from my perspective. And I personally do not feel safe, would not feel safe driving around Mexico. I'd rather be with somebody who knows the roads, knows the language, knows the culture, knows the police, and so that I don't feel stressed out on my vacation. I always tell people do your own research. You have to do and feel what's right for you when you're traveling, and that I'm just giving my experience and my perspective on this. With that being said, do not ever, ever, under any circumstances, ever rent a car if you're vacationing in Cancun. Just kidding. Let's get on to some more tips. Now, some of these other tips are not new. I've gone over them in other videos, but I still think they're important enough at least to list here. So, a lot of people ask me about sunscreen, how to pack it, where to get it once you're in Mexico, because I personally never check a bag in. So, I actually just buy the trial sizes, even though, maybe it's going to cost me a little bit more. I don't want to have to worry about when I start my vacation about buying sunscreen and where I'm going to get sunscreen. So, I actually get them off Amazon. I will link that below. But your options are either that, do the trial sizes and pack them. Obviously, if you're checking a bag in, you can pack it. If you get there and you want to buy it, some people say at the airport, the mini mart has it for a little bit less than the resort. Obviously, the resort's going to be a little bit more. And if you do have a private transfer, you could ask them if that's something that they could purchase and you could give them the money for when you get there. But again, for me, I just try to do the most convenient and the less stress free, which would be to pack TSA approved trial sizes. I actually just recently bought this SPF hoodie that I absolutely love. It's great for excursions, but you can also sit with it on the beach. You can get in the water with it. And so this has been great protection for me as well because there's nothing worse than a horrible sunburn on your vacation. Another tip I give always is do not check in a bag if possible, especially with all of the crazy things that are going on with the airlines this year. One, obviously, you don't have to wait for it when you arrive, but if there is a cancellation or something crazy happens, you don't have to go waiting for your bag or searching for your bag. One of the newest things that I always bring now, since the 5 years we've been coming to Cancun, is a wireless charger. So I found this out again the hard way because when I was on vacation, the port on my phone, the charging port broke, and I was not able to charge my phone. So resorts do not sell wireless chargers. At least the one we were at did not. So we had to go off the resort to buy one. So now I always bring a wireless charger, and I have this amazing one. I will link it below that has three sides for your AirPods, your Apple Watch, and your phone. So, this last tip is something that might cause a little bit of controversy. I might get some negative comments on, but it's something I would have never considered to do 5 years ago, and that is to fly first class. And it's not as expensive as you would think. Again, we are not rich people, so it's not a rich person telling you, oh, you should fly first class. The way that we do it is we book the flight, a regular seat. And then over the next few weeks, we'll start looking to see how much it is to upgrade. And as it gets closer, the price usually goes down. And it can be as little as $150 to $200 more per person. And again, I know that is a lot for some people, especially if you're traveling with multiple people. So it's just something to consider. And honestly, it has just become a mindset for us. And we have found now that we don't want to go back to the regular seats. So we do what it takes to be able to fly first class. And it is definitely an experience that you should try at least once. I hope you found these latest tips for traveling to Cancun helpful. And we learn something every single time we go, and I'm sure you do as well. So if you have anything to add or any great tips, please put them in the comments below. And I will list all the videos that I referenced to watch in the description below so that they're easy to find. And especially the one for Cancun Airport 2023. Make sure you check that one out along with my Cancun travel tips and packing tips. And definitely keep following us. Next month, we will be headed to Punta Cana and we will bring you similar videos for travel tips to Punta Cana. And keep following us at 3 Days and Tres Noches while we keep bringing you that real, honest, to the point travel information about the destinations that we go to and show you you don't need an entire week to have an amazing vacation.